Hi, Cemetery of Choice again. There's a death I just learned about today that I found on the Operation Rescue website. I'm writing up a brief summary of it on the Real Choice blog because Operation Rescue goes into a whole lot of detail. Um, so I do link to that website. And as I've said before, they are really good at getting original source documents. So they're a really good source for information about abortion facilities or doctors. But this young woman, this is just so sad. And my thing's freezing. There we go. Um, Her name was Rebecca. In the spring of 2010, she went into her OBGYN for a 20-week ultrasound and learned that her unborn baby had died, probably at least 2 weeks earlier to judge by the fetal size. And Rebecca had a condition called antiphospholipid syndrome, which leads to the formation of blood clots, deep vein thrombosis, and can cause miscarriage or stillbirth. So that might be the reason why Rebecca's baby died. Now, this is a very, very high-risk patient. And instead of arranging for her to be cared for in a hospital, the OBGYN sent her this substandard abortion clinic, Washington Surgery Clinic, operated by Dr. Cesare F. Santangelo. So you can go, oh, here's the lawsuit. So here's the doctor, and you can scroll down. Oh, why is this not scrolling? There you go. You can scroll down and see what he's been up to. And his clinic, and you can look and see what they've been up to. It's all on there. So, and again, Operation Rescue is really, really good at having original source documents. So they provide a copy of the wrongful death suit filed by Rebecca's family. So, let's get back over here. Slow, slow, slow. Okay. So Rebecca went to the facility on May 19th, 2010 for the first stage of the procedure. Now, Santangelo did not have hospital privileges, so he could not check her into a hospital to perform this procedure, someplace where she would be safe. This is a high-risk patient with a blood clotting disorder. And the pro-choice groups go, well, they don't really need to have admitting privileges. Well, again, it's kind of a measure of how good a doctor they are if they can't get admitting privileges. So he couldn't admit her himself because he didn't have admitting privileges, and he didn't refer her to somebody that did. And Rebecca's family said that he also didn't inform her of how risky this was. He didn't inform her of the specific risks related to the medication she'd been taking, related to her blood disorder, or relating to how long her unborn baby had been dead, which does have an impact in the risk of the procedure you do when you remove it. So the first day he inserted dilators into Rebecca's cervix, and these are little sterilized dried seaweed sticks, and they absorb moisture, they expand, they dilate the cervix. He told her to return the next day for the procedure, but when she came in the next day, Santangelo told her that she wasn't fully dilated yet. So he took out the old dilators, put in some new ones, and told her to return again the next day. But about 2 hours later, she came back reporting abdominal pain. Now, Santangelo was not at the clinic at the time, so Rebecca waited for him, and about 2:38 p.m., he came in and performed the procedure. And this is gruesome and sad, but it kind of explains about how she suffered these complications. They reach in with forceps and they just pull the baby apart. And of course, a lot of fetal tissue gets kind of shredded when you're doing that. And the bony parts can cause cervical lacerations, the instruments can cause cervical lacerations, and fetal tissue can get into the mother's bloodstream. So um, he started the procedure at 2:38 p.m. By 2:45, her oxygen levels had dropped and she turned blue. So staff intubated her. They administered some medication. It wasn't until 2:58 p.m., 13 minutes after she started to turn blue, that they called an ambulance. By the time the ambulance got there, she was a dark bluish purple and her pupils weren't responsive. So they started actual effective resuscitation efforts. And it took about a minute to get her to kind of pink back up and to get her eyes responsive to light again. So they were making some progress, but about 3:15 p.m., they lost her pulse. So they defibrillated her. And then at 3:25, they transported her to George Washington University Hospital. And there she was diagnosed with massive uterine bleeding caused by disseminated intravascular coagulopathy, or DIC. And there's two variations of DIC, but basically it's the clotting factors in the blood just get completely out of whack. And if this goes in one direction, your blood just clots all over the place. And if it goes in the other direction, your blood just won't clot. You can bleed to death from a fairly minor cut. So they were unable to stop the bleeding, and she died on May 28th. And the autopsy revealed that fetal debris had gotten into her bloodstream, which can trigger this disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. And Rebecca was already more vulnerable to blood problems because of her disorder. So her family sued the doctor and the clinic for $80 million. The case was dismissed probably because they settled out of court and for an undisclosed amount. They didn't file suit against the doctor who referred her to this guy. And this is why I tell people, don't just trust them. You go to abortion docs, you look, and you can see what kind of history they have. And this is doctors. Don't refer women until you've checked these places out. And friends don't let friends go to seedy abortion clinics. Please vet them first.